Welcome back to Movement Monday. I'm Erin with Choreographing Our Lives, and we are continuing our series on growth. Last week, it was this exploration of growth spurts. That makes me think fast speed, that makes me think Charlie horses, that makes me think, This week, we're going to contrast it with slow growth. So think of trees. I was visiting a friend this week, and she had planted some trees, and I don't know when the last time I had visited her was, maybe a year ago. But I was so struck because they were smaller, how much they had grown since I had last been there. And I was like, it got me thinking about a lot of times we don't notice trees growing. But we're also in a season with vegetation, plants in the summer that are growing really rapidly. So that growth spurt in the summer with plants, that makes sense. But this idea of trees, like they've been around for hundreds of years. And we may not notice that they continue to grow. They don't stop. Their life stops when they're cut down. They're growing continually until they die. So that was what we wanted to bring into the space this week. What areas in your life are in that kind of slow growth that you may not notice, but is definitely happening? Gillian also brought in hair growth and how we sometimes don't notice how long our hair has gotten. And this idea that with trees, with hair, sometimes we have to trim it, trim the trees, prune the trees, trim the hair to help continue the growth process. So I thought I'd show you. I recently cut a lot of hair off. It's like a half foot. This is my show and tell. But I was really resistant to cutting off that much hair. And I hadn't realized that it had gotten so long until I was faced with having to completely chop off a whole bunch. And I'm like, wait, I don't want to chop off that much. So this idea that, my hairdresser was like, no, Erin, we really get to do this. It's really going to help your hair. So maybe it looks healthier. I don't know. I got really attached to my attachment of what growth is, and it's like, well, no, I don't want to cut it because then it doesn't show the growth that I made. It doesn't show the time that has passed. So I offer some of these reflections this week for you to be in some slow motion around where are the slow growth areas of my life. I believe sometimes our heart goes through growth spurts, and I believe it's always holding that slow maturation of how we live and love well, how we take care of ourselves. It is a holiday weekend. I am hearing some cars bumping out in the background, so maybe you are hearing that music. But as we're in this sort of busy weekend, slow it down and notice maybe over all of these holiday weekends throughout your life, you've grown in a certain area that you haven't given yourself credit for or acknowledged in any way. You are not the same person today as you were 10 years ago. So give yourself some love and appreciation for the growing pains that you've lived through for growth spurts, but also for that long, slow growth that you're up to. And, for me, I always see movement. In your practice, I just invite a coming to stillness compared with last week, had lots of movement. If we come into stillness, how has your heart grown? How has your mind grown, expanded, opened? So much love and movement.